Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I'm the mom of two young girls, a 7-year-old who's in first grade and a 4-year-old. We are addressing the top questions and criticisms that homeschoolers face from well-meaning individuals, friends, and family. Today's video is going to talk about the common question a lot of us get, which is, you're not a teacher. How could you possibly be qualified to teach your kid at home? You're the expert of your own child. I read that to become a master or expert at something, it takes approximately 10,000 hours of studying that one thing to be an expert at it. Let's do the math. For a teacher to become an expert of a student at 10,000 hours, that would basically mean that it would take them 5 years, 6 hours a day, 7 days a week to become a master or expert of your student. Now, they don't only have one student, they have 180 students. And they're not going to have those 180 students every year for 5 years. They're only going to have them for 1 year. So we have people saying to us, you couldn't possibly teach your kid because you're not an expert at teaching. But guess what? Neither are these teachers. I was a teacher. I was always learning new things with new students every year. And they're constantly being trained in new pedagogies, new practices. You can't ever really become an expert at something because everything's constantly changing. So there's no possible way that a teacher could ever be an expert of a student, let alone 180. Whereas parents become experts of their child in 1 year. You're with your baby for 24 hours, 7 days a week. You know what makes your kid tick. You know their likes, their dislikes. You know the best time of day that they work and learn, and you know what their fears are, what might be difficult for them to learn. You're the expert of your child. So regardless of what a curriculum says, you can tailor things to be as fast or slow for your own child. You don't need someone telling you this is how your kid learns because you know your child best. The great thing about homeschooling is you're not necessarily going to tailor your teaching for all of your kids based on one kid. Whereas in a public classroom, most teachers, since there's 36 plus kids, they teach everybody the same, regardless of learning styles and individual needs. I mean, there may be some differentiation between higher learners and lower learners, between English language learners and native speakers. There's probably a differentiation, but it's nothing to the degree of where your kid can move at their own pace, whether that be faster or slower, or they can learn things that they're interested in and really spend time developing talents and skills. There's no opportunity for that because you have 180 kids you have to teach all year long. There's 36 plus kids in a classroom. And to be completely honest with you, about 70% of your day is basically devoted to classroom management. That's not individual student teaching. So a lot of well-meaning individuals might not best know how to articulate their concerns. They'll often start off with, how dare you think that you could possibly do a better job than a trained professional? A trained professional has 2 extra years of training. They have professional development every year. They've taught, 5, 6, 10 years. How could you, a first-time homeschooling mom, or maybe a person who's just taking your kids out of public school, be able to do a better job than them? These are a couple things you need to know to give you the confidence that you can do this. Number 1, you can find out what your kids need to know very simply. Every state has state standards and they're posted online. So even if you don't know where to go, you can easily be directed to what your child may be expected to do in a public school. Standards are a guideline of what to teach. But as we all know, being parents, that kids master stuff at different ages. And if your kid's at home, there's plenty of opportunities to learn something next year, even if they were supposed to learn it this year. So while standards can be helpful, I don't want you to think that they're the end-all be-all, and if you don't meet every standard, your kid is doomed. Another thing that parents need to understand is that most curriculums address state standards or national standards. There are a plethora of curriculums that address state and national standards. And as a parent, you have the right to choose whatever you think is great. You could do a more Bible-based curriculum, or you could do one that's more traditionally public school oriented. There are so many curriculums out there that will help guide you in teaching your kids. Plus, a lot of them are open and go. So they'll tell you what your kid will be doing today, tomorrow. They'll have a week at a glance, and they have their own built-in scopes and sequences so that you can feel confident that your child is getting a great body of knowledge without you missing things. You could also tailor your kids' learning to be interest-led. This is an approach of a lot of unschoolers where their kids will learn things based on what they're naturally drawn to. This works really well for history and science so that your child can go to the library and pick out books that they're interested in reading. You guys could go online, you could watch videos, and there's a lot of curriculums that have standalone topics for science and history that would work really well and integrate beautifully into your own homeschool. And finally, there's so much resources online. There's a lot of podcasts you can listen to. There's YouTube videos where you can see other parents and how they do it. You can even attend a lot of homeschool conventions and listen to guest speakers and be able to see curriculum up close and in person to guide you in your decision making. You're not alone in this, and there's a lot of support out there to help you pick a curriculum so that you're on track and you don't have to know everything. And you don't even have to stay with a curriculum for all 12 years. Lots of parents pull from different resources, but you also have co-ops, which are a great resource so that if you have a child who's entering higher level math or chemistry and you don't feel confident in teaching that, you can always have your kid attend a co-op with other homeschooled families, and they can get that specialty class and they'll be prepared for college or whatever career options they may choose. And then finally, most curriculums offer teacher guides, and sometimes they even have an online component so that your students can watch videos and then do the work. So you might not necessarily have to be teaching them one-on-one all the time for every subject. You could pop a video in or a DVD, or they could just log into an account and do it on their own. I mean, let's be honest. Teaching your kid at home can't be any worse than your second grader's teacher telling him, you can't work on this at home with your mom. She learned math the old way, and we're doing math the new way. So when I decided to homeschool, I thought that I would be really good at it because I had been in the classroom and I'd seen so many learners, and I was totally confident that this would translate easily. I had worked with public school students in a traditional school. I'd worked with homeschooling families in a charter school. So I went into it thinking, I am totally prepared. I know what to expect. I know what to teach. But I have to say that my credential and my 10 plus years of teaching did not prepare me for the day-to-day of teaching my own daughter. My training and my professional development didn't do one thing to make teaching my own child easier. So I just want to encourage you that when you hear this criticism and you get questions, you don't need to always be on the defensive. Homeschooling is a personal decision. You're making the decision that's best for your family. You're going to teach things and do things differently than maybe your friends or maybe me, and that's okay because every kid is different and they deserve to have an education that's tailored to their individual learning needs. So if you're enjoying this content, make sure to subscribe below. Tell me what's one question or criticism that you seem to get. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.